It is just a huge honor today to be podcasting two of my neighbors. I'm in Phoenix, where all the poor people live, and they're up in the rich part of town, Scottsdale. Dr. Blair Feldman, DMD, MS, MSED. He's a practicing orthodontist with offices in Scottsdale and Surprise. He is the co-founder of Retainer Club, a subscription retainer club providing services to some of the best orthodontic offices around the country, utilizing technology to make orthodontics comfortable, convenient, and fun. He's an Invisalign provider since 2001, Adjunct Professor of Orthodontics at A.T. Still University, COO and co-founder of Custom Club, and managing operations at Retainer Club and MouthGuard.com. Damn, Blair, are you trying to pay off like 4 ex-wives, or are you just like highly motivated?
Just 4 student loans, I think.
Retainer Club services a national network of partner orthodontic and dental offices, providing online ordering and management of clear retainers, as well as design, fabrication, and home shipping of the highest quality clear retainers. He helps patients protect their investment in orthodontic and get straight teeth for life. MouthGuard Club offers the best protection available in a mouth guard for any contact sport. Protect yourself, express yourself. Athletes can choose from hundreds of color combinations and include logos, players, numbers, and names. A perfectly fitting mouth guard is made from the same 3D scan that you use to make retainers and clear aligners. Retainer Club helps orthodontists give their patients straight teeth for life, utilizing the latest 3D scanning technology and 3D printing to create custom-made retainers at an affordable price. And the other handsome gentleman there is his attorney, Craig Weiss. He's the founder and CEO of Aladdin Dreamer, Inc. and co-founder of the Retainer Club. Craig Weiss is the founder of Aladdin Dreamer, a technology company with a patented wearable that is designed to improve the 1/3 of our life that we sleep around through biometric tracking and patented sleep enhancement technology. Craig is also the co-founder of Retainer Club, LLC, a subscription healthcare service that provides subscribers with a 3D printed custom retainer. Prior to Aladdin and Retainer Club, Craig oversaw NJOY, Inc., the world's largest independent electronic cigarette and vaping company, as president from June 2010 and later as CEO from April 2011 to 2014. Before joining NJOY, Craig practiced law as a U.S. registered patent attorney, where he focused on the drafting and prosecution of patent applications for medical device, e-commerce, and business method. I bet you're smarter than me when you're drunk and passed out. I bet if you blacked out from a vodka overdose, you'd still be smarter than me. An inventor, Craig has 8 patents to his own name, including 4 for medical devices. He was also the managing member of a hedge fund having $50 million under management, which, okay, I give up. What do you guys got? Like some freak genius club?
I really am glad you're giving up. I couldn't hear another word of it. So I appreciate you stopping. Thank you.
Well, hey, you started with a sleep company, and I just want to make sure you're aware. I'm sure you're aware of it because you're just like that. But you know, taller people sleep better because they sleep longer.
I thought you were going to say that my bio was putting people to sleep. So I'm glad you went with the tall joke instead.
Oh my gosh! Are you guys must be the 2 busiest men in Scottsdale.
Well, it's hard, you know, it's hard because I'm trying to find out how much vodka I need to drink to pass out to be smarter than you. So it's challenging to find time for the other endeavors.
Oh my gosh. I mean, my gosh, I don't even know where to start with you guys, but I do want to say one thing to the kids though. A lot of kids, when a quarter of our listeners are still in dental kindergarten school, whether it's AT Still or Midwestern, and they think orthodontics, the hard thing about ortho is pulling the teeth together and closing the spaces. I mean, dude, that's the easy part. The retention is a nightmare, and I wish you'd guys give some old school advice, because I think the doctors, the physicians, the surgeons in Arizona do so much better than the dentists, because everybody that gets an artificial hip or a knee, they come back and say, well, yeah, he said that hip, it only lasts 5 years. He said that knee, it only lasts 5 years. And then the dentist has an orthodontic case open up a decade later, or an implant fall out 15 years later. And they're like, What's going on? I thought that would last for life. I mean, satisfaction, you got to set expectations, and the orthopeds are the genius with expectations. And the hardest part of orthodontics is the retention. It's not closing the spaces. Do you agree with that, Blair, or am I nuts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I heard a story from my wife's a dentist too in town, and we were at an implant conference. You know, when you're two dentists, that's what you do for fun. You talk about dentistry at the dinner table, and we go to dental conferences together. And somebody asked the manufacturer how long the implants should last, and he had it in his hand. And he goes, "Out of your mouth, it'll last forever." And then he said, basically, the mouth is a hostile environment. It's changing pressures and temperatures. He's like, the answer is we don't know how long it'll last. It depends on the individual and the conditions. So kind of like what you said, the orthopedists have it right. They put a nice finite 5 years on their work. And as orthodontists, Craig and I sort of refer to it as the dirty little secret in orthodontics. And that is that if you don't wear a retainer long-term, your teeth will shift. And the people that will argue with me will say, that's not true. I set my canines at a certain distance and I never violate the inner canine width, and I extract every time it's necessary so I don't tip the teeth or upright the teeth. And the reality is I wouldn't have so many adults coming to see me if it wasn't for the fact that all these people, that teeth move over time as we age. So, what we wanted to do is we really wanted to find a way to take that fact and add some, what we call like Amazon-like service to our friends. Craig likes to refer to them, and I refer to them as my people, orthodontists and dentists who are doing orthodontic work and need a way to provide services for their patients, but they have to do it in a way that makes sense. You can't spend your whole day seeing retainer patients. It's not profitable. It doesn't make sense. So patients sort of expect to be treated in this sort of Amazon style, and that's what we bring to our partner offices around the country.
And what is an Amazon style? Just that you can order it and off Amazon? Can you order it off Amazon?
No, and my lawyer, thanks for mentioning my lawyer. I love calling Craig my lawyer, because actually technically never been my lawyer. He's probably my closest friend who's a lawyer, even though I'm a son of a lawyer. I like my dad, but I like Craig. He's got better stories. Sorry, Dad. But Amazon-like means you go online, you go to Retainer Club, and you go to your dashboard and you order it. The only way you can get retainers from us is through a partner office, an office that has a 3D scanner. And we're in a dozen states right now. We got thousands of subscribers. But Amazon-like to me means you place an order online and it gets delivered to you in a very fast, predictable amount of time. For us, it's 7 days.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to interrupt the lawyer. I know that he'll bill me $400.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, I think consumer expectations, especially after COVID or through COVID, have really created a heightened expectation by consumers that they're going to get their services in the most convenient way possible. And for so many of us, that's, digitally, and we expect our education to be online and everything else. We believe, Blair and I, that the best way to get orthodontic treatment is actually in office. We don't believe in the DIY model of getting, orthodontics through the mail. I always joke, no one's getting their haircut from Amazon or root canal from Amazon. And so you should be going to an office, but we think the future is what we call kind of, the hybrid model or brick and mortar. We call it
click and mortar. Yeah.
Yeah. Click and mortar, which is this idea that you go to the office for treatment, but post-treatment that you can get in the mail. And so the idea is go to your orthodontist, go to his or her office, get your orthodontic treatment, and then post-treatment, you shouldn't have to go back for retainer appointments. You shouldn't have to, as a consumer, you shouldn't have to do that. But also from the orthodontist perspective, we've yet to meet the orthodontist who says, I love my retainer appointments. It's such a great, efficient use of my practice time and my chair time. So we actually think it's kind of a win-win. We allow the orthodontists or the GPs who are doing Invisalign to focus entirely on treatment. And then post-treatment, from my perspective I'll be the consumer, I don't want to have to go back if I don't have to. I'd rather get my products and services through the mail if that's feasible, and we provide that ability. And I think it would be very hard for an orthodontist or dentist to spend the millions of dollars and create the systems and infrastructure that we've done over the last few years to give them that ability to be our partner and give them the ability to provide their patients with this service.
So just for details, Blair, is this for orthodontists only, and not general dentists, or are you?
Yeah, so so there's a couple things so we have actually a mix of orthodontists. We have much more orthodontists than general dentists, but we do have a mix. I think what's interesting is the model we've created is what we call a partnership. So there's a couple of interesting things we do. The first thing we do is that we come in early on and we start making the end of treatment retainers, which either the orthodontist or the dentist was going to give the patient anyways, but they would have incurred an overhead cost, whether it's going to a lab or having it done in your own office. So we come in and we give them that service for free, along with a membership to Retainer Club for 6 months. So the partnership is pretty simple. Basically, we give you a free retainer, you sign patients up for a Retainer Club, and and on our side, it's real obvious. If the patient sees the benefit and of regularly replacing your retainers, which is the best way to keep straight teeth for life, they'll stay on. And that's our sort of the challenges on us to maintain these patients. And we found already, that patients really like this service. But the return on the partnership is that we're able to take advantage of both our marketing, as our outside marketing website, Facebook, Instagram, Dr. Locator, and as well as our in-package marketing, which we market for these offices to send patients back to the partner office. And whether it's a general dentist office through, whether it's Retainer Club or the sports mouth guards or the orthodontist, same things, retainers or mouth guards, we found that this creates this long-term connection. And Howard, sort of better than us that the space online is very crowded and noisy and complicated. I mean, as a consumer, you're hearing from Smile Direct Club that you don't even need the orthodontist anymore, which Craig said, we don't believe in. So we want to help our orthodontists and dentists cut through that noise and get to patients and touch patients in a different way, in the sense that they're servicing them by outsourcing the services to us, but we're always marketing on behalf of our partners to send the patients back to their favorite orthodontist and dentist.
Well, what percent of the orthodontist is probably done by orthodontists anyway? I mean, what as opposed to general dentist?
That's a great question. I don't remember the number. I remember seeing it when I was in my residency, and I remember thinking, wow, that's more dentists than I thought doing orthodontics. And I think the stats have roughly stayed the same, if not grown, on the side of general dentists, thanks to Invisalign and the work they've done. I know my wife is a general dentist that does Invisalign.
Who's your wife?
Colleen Murphy. I don't know if you remember Dr. Murphy. She said she's met you in the past. She's worked at several large practices here in the Valley for a long time, and she goes by her maiden name.
Colleen Murphy, DDS?
Yeah.
DMD?
DDS.
DDS? And you're a DMD. I never realized how confusing that was, because you know how they have a DD, DO, and MD.
Right.
And patients always say, well, what's the difference between a DO and a MD? And I've been out here in Phoenix for 30 years, and I think it's sad that so many people say, well, what's the difference between a DDS and a DMD? And I'm a DDS, and I say, well, DDS, that's a real dentist, and I can prove it. I can prove it because if you go to Outlook and you type in Colleen Murphy, DMD, Microsoft, the biggest company in the world, will make DMD her last name. And then, but if I type in Colleen Murphy DDS, it'll be Murphy, Colleen. So if Microsoft doesn't recognize DMD as a legitimate degree, it's not a real degree. I mean, because Microsoft, they're on top of everything. That's why. Anyway, I don't even want to go there. But Colleen Murphy, so she's a cosmetic dentist in Scottsdale.
She is. And right now she's actually just covering maternity leave for a great practice in town, but she's worked at several great practices over the years. She's had a very good career with some great doctors all over the Valley.
Oh, nice, man. Well, tell her I said hello.
I will.
So same exact question, but with scanner. Are you agnostic scanner technology, or because I noticed, here's what I noticed. The orthodontists, they all gravitate towards iTero because Align Technology, Joe Hogan owns Align Technology. He owns exocad, and he owns the iTero. And if you're blood and guts placing implants, then you go to 3Shape and all that. So I assume you're iTero only?
No, that's a good question. No, we're scanner agnostic. It's a very easy, because exactly what you said, so many orthodontists use iTero because if you do Invisalign, it's the easiest way to do it. And we actually have a program through iTero where we can actually lease scanners and put them in the office for as low as free, which has been really well received by offices. But we're agnostic as long as it's a good STL file. And we've gotten scans from, I think, just about every major scan company. It's easy enough because of our 3D printing technology and our lab software. We're able to take any good STL file to make a great set of retainers.
But when I have Joe Hogan on the show, and when he went on Kramer, I said, "Come on, I'm the other bald crazy guy." I said, "You went on the CNBC crazy ballsy guy. Why not me?" He came on the show. But whenever I'm talking to someone, Ormco or some big orthodontic company, they always tell me the orthodontists buy 80 to 85% of their stuff. And obviously, if you got a bunch of onesies where, say you got 10 dentists that buy one retainer a month, and then you got one dentist that buys 10 a month. I mean, it's just obvious. You want to go for the easy picking, the low gravy. Let's start with Retainer Club. So if you go to retainerclub.com, most of my homies are driving into work. They got a long commute, and other about 15% of those poor bastards are stuck on a treadmill, and I just tell them, just get off the treadmill. I mean, just get off the treadmill right now. But anyway, so they can't see. Tell them if they went to Retainer Club, what would they see, and what would they find, and what would they do?
Well, I'll jump in here and I'll answer that question. Blair will do a better job, but I also wanted to say that I've actually was on Mad Money twice with Jim Cramer. So you're not the first crazy bald person for me either. I'm sorry to be the second person to tell you that. So two things, but before I jump into what happens when you get to retainerclub.com, there's a story I like to tell that I think your listeners will appreciate, which is, well, I think part of what makes the partnership between Blair and I so successful is that, he's the subject matter expert when it comes to orthodontics. And then I've got this sort of, background having, built a $1 billion consumer, products company. And I always kind of try to think about it from the consumer's perspective. And the first story he sort of shared with me is, hey, Craig, I'm an orthodontist. Like, these dentists, they get a lifetime relationship with their patients. I get a 2-year relationship. And it's actually a great relationship for those 2 years. And if anything, it ends on a high note. These people come in, their teeth are all crooked, and they leave with these beautiful smiles. He said, but 95% of the time, I actually never see them again. And in the 5% of the time I do see them again, it's actually not a great relationship. Their teeth have moved, they've shifted, they come in, they're frustrated, they're angry, maybe they're looking for retreatment. And he goes, and I go from being kind of the sweet orthodontist to a private detective. Well, have you been wearing your retainer? Well, why did you stop? How come you didn't call us? What happened? And it becomes very adversarial. And really, Retainer Club was born out of that frustration that he had with the unhappy former patients. And what we realized, when he and I started talking about this idea, was at first we just thought this was Dollar Shave Club for retainers. Brand new retainer shows up in the mail, you throw away the old one and you pop in the new one. But what we've learned over this time is it's actually so much more than that, is that it's creating that lifetime value, that lifetime relationship for the patient, for the orthodontist, that they never had before, right? They only had these 2-year relationships. And now, if they tried to market or email or advertise to their former patients, no one would open those emails, right? The emails get like 2% open rate. But what's the open rate on that package from Amazon that shows up with your name on it? It's 100%, right? Everyone's opening that box. And when that Retainer Club box shows up with your name on it, with your custom fitting retainer, it gets opened 100% of the time. And we realized we could leverage that to market our partners' practices on the interior of that package with whatever they want. Hey, we're offering for a friend program, or we're offering a teeth whitening program. And so all of those things gave our ability to create a lifetime relationship for the orthodontist. And that's, one of the biggest sort of value propositions that we provide. And so, retainerclub.com is the consumer facing website that tells, people, hey, you can get, replacement retainers for as little as $99 for 1 a year, or, $149 gets you 2 sets a year, and $199 gets you 3 sets a year. And partners.retainerclub.com is our sort of orthodontist facing website, where the orthodontists can see how easy it is for them to register their scanner with Retainer Club, start submitting scans and recognizing all of those benefits. So hopefully that answers your question. Blair, what did I miss there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to understand is, we get asked a lot, like, what's your setup in your business? Are you direct to consumer? Are you through the orthodontist? And we see ourselves as B2B to C, basically. So through the partner office that has a 3D scanner, that's how we get to the consumer. And anytime we market to the consumer, we're always sending them back to a partner office. We have a few commandments at Retainer Club. One of them is we'll always market on behalf of our partners. That's sort of the partnership. The other one is that we don't move teeth. So there's another company, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I can't remember the name, but it's got club in the end. There's no connection between us and them. And in fact, I think we thought of the name first, to be honest, but that's a different story. But the thing is, we don't move teeth because we don't want to be in any kind of competition with our partners. We only want to service them and their communities and their patients long term. So we get asked, it's funny, we don't get asked by the customers, we don't get asked by the patients to move teeth. We frequently get asked by the orthodontists have asked us the most, can you just kind of work out that little lower incisor crowding, or can you do this? And right now our answer is no. I think someday there'll be some interesting technologies to just kind of give a final detail to the case, and there might be a service piece for that, but we don't do that. We don't move teeth. We just simply make a great, clear Essex style retainer. That being said, better than anybody, there's another style of retainers. There are Hollies and there's positioners and all those other kinds. Those to me are a work of art. They're done by a lab technician. They're hand laid. Ours are much more, they're very much automated in their production. We do have a lab team here in Scottsdale, which is nice. The other thing people ask us a lot is, do you outsource them? Are they made out of the country? No, they're made right here in Scottsdale. But we make one thing. We don't make Hollies. We don't make positioners. We just make clear Essex style retainers.
I know we got to get this question out of the way. They're all going to ask, can you use the same tray to bleach your teeth?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's more of a personal recommendation. I know Invisalign says you can whiten inside the aligner trays. And the reason you can do that is because the cut is scalloped. And so any extra whitening material that comes out, you can wipe it off. Our retainers are not. They're cut straight, very, traditional Essex style. So I don't recommend that people whiten inside of them. And we've looked at, the ability to get whitening trays from our system too. But we're really focused on two main things: these basic, clear, really well made, great fitting, polished orthodontic retainers, and then the custom sports mouth guards.
So I want to ask you something completely off the record, or not off the record, but out of what we're talking about is when you talked about that you see yourself as not brick and mortar but click and mortar, kind of B to B to C. What is your insight when you went? The Greater New York meeting is the best meeting because it's the only meeting that's season appropriate for their city. I mean, Chicago Midwinter, February. Really? 12 months and your first choice was February? Really? What was your second choice? The Yankee meeting in Boston, February. Really? New York, it's right after Thanksgiving. It's the perfect time to go to New York. You got the Macy's Day Parade. But anyway, the last 4 years before the pandemic, every year the Amazon boys were there. They look like men in black. They're at the table. They're the cause of all the whispering and all the rumors like, oh, Amazon's over there. And when they first showed up, Patterson and Shine and Benko and Burkhart, they literally, probably had a heart attack. But they've been there for 4 years, and dentists still don't buy through Amazon, and I can't figure it out. I was asking the CEO of, I did a podcast with the CEO of 3M's dental director, and the show aired, and he was fired the next week. So, but anyway, I don't know if there's any relation. But
hopefully Blair won't fire me next week.
I said to him, why don't you? Well, it wouldn't fire. He retired. I said that wrong. He was retired, but you never know. Retirement is like forced retirement or not retirement. What was not fired? He was retired. But he said to me, he said, "You know what's weird about that, Howard?" He goes, "Dentists. I mean, the people in dental manufacturers always ask about that because the dentist never asked me when is 3M going to sell on Amazon." He goes, "Our customers, the dentist." Every time they talk to us, they're talking about the bond strength, the glass armor, the cement. They never ask us when we're going to sell through Amazon. It's always the distributors, the dealers, the journalists like you. But why do you think it's 2021 and I can't buy all my dental supplies on Amazon?
That's a good question. I mean, I it's probably only a matter of time before the dental community is able to buy their dental supplies on Amazon the way that consumers are buying pretty much everything else on Amazon. Though I think a lot of industries haven't shifted to buy sort of industry type of materials from Amazon. And maybe the fact that they're there for the last 4 years means that that's what they're trying to break into next, because obviously they get the economies of scale of being able to sell in bulk to a much larger volume purchasing, end users than a consumer. But I do think, mentioning Amazon, and I know there was a little confusion earlier in the interview about, whether when we said Amazon that we didn't actually mean Amazon, is I guess part of it for me is when I think about all of these, thousands and thousands of the more than 10,000 orthodontists and the tens of thousands of GPs who are doing, aligner therapy, I think of them as small business owners. And for so many of them, right, they went to dental school, not business school, and maybe they feel a little bit overwhelmed by the various aspects of the operating of a small business. And so part of what we really try to be the orthodontist's best friend or the GP's best friend. And one of the ways that we've tried to accomplish that is, well, gosh, you're a dentist. You probably aren't into packaging and fulfillment and 3D printing and, managing a whole database of patients and keeping track of the schedule of when someone receives a retainer. We've spent millions of dollars in years perfecting those systems, but we can give you that capability and actually make you look really good, right? You look kind of like a superstar because you're able to offer your patients this ability to have, digital online fulfillment and have a package show up in the mail at your home with the perfectly fitting retainers. And we should also make sure we spend a little bit of time talking about Mouthguard Club, because I think it's really its own super separate and interesting business. But I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, which is I think it would be hard. Blair he tried to do this while maintaining his own practice and sort of wearing two hats. And he ultimately sold his practice to focus full time on Retainer Club and Mouthguard Club, because it's a full-time job to try to manage all of these complexities. And so we're trying to do that for our partners.
I'll add a little more, Howard. I mean, there's a few other platforms that I think Craig and I have sort of developed and we stand on. And one of them, is that we understand, Craig mentioned that these small business owners and I understand it, intimately as, I owned a practice for 20 years. But I think, one of the platforms we stand on, especially for orthodontists, because obviously that's where I'm more knowledgeable, is that as orthodontists, we give away too much for free. We give away free exams, we give away free panos, we scan for free. And one of the benefits that we find of being a partner is we've sort of legitimized this charge for a scan. So when we send a patient to one of our partner offices through our marketing, we recommend that the offices charge for that. This is a $30,000 piece of equipment. Our oral surgery brothers and sisters, they're certainly charging for their exams and any use of their high technology equipment. I think the orthodontists need to do that too. So bringing it back to Amazon, I think the thing that's probably most interesting and the thing that's most surprising and for when you come into dentistry and you start to basically make these purchasing decisions, you realize that every single person is paying a different price for the exact same product. And I think as a small business owner, that's super frustrating. So and my side, I think it's attractive ultimately, but I think if the companies are smart, they'll get price parity so that everyone's paying the same thing for the same products so that there isn't this sort of stress level. I know none of the companies probably want to hear that, but the reality is everything's online. You can get anything you want online. You should be able to get anything you want online. And if you want to continue that relationship with your orthodontist and dentist, you need to be able to charge the same fee across the board and let everybody know that they're on the same field. And I think, what Craig and I advocate for in our sort of small way at Retainer Club and Mouthguard Club is making sure that, first of all, everyone in our side gets the same, sort of deals and setups, but that it's the consumer knows what they're paying from this. The consumers know exactly what they're paying, and they also know what they're paying for the scan fees when they need a scan.
Well, the one thing, I know I'm not blowing air up your dress. I mean, you guys are two smart big boys. I mean, you really are. I mean, Craig's been on, NJOY, Kramer, all this stuff. But what I think is genius about you is the subscription service. I mean, too many dentists All their revenue is a one-off deal. You know, they spend a lot of money marketing, and they get someone to come in and give them $1 once. And you tell them in dentistry, the big money is that if you can get them to come in every 6 months, if you can just get that one behavior, that recall down, the only thing you need is that recall down, and you know, you get the pickup business. But Craig, you've been in some several different companies. You've been in NJOY, you've been in other ones. Did you what was differently about this dentistry business than, say, NJOY and all the other billion-dollar companies that you've been involved with? What made dentistry, was there something different than in dentistry than the other ones?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm fascinated by so many different businesses because I think they're each unique in their own way, and they provide like their own different set of challenges. You know, with NJOY, I was focused on the fact that the World Health Organization said 1 billion human beings were going to die this century from smoking. And I realized, you know, nicotine's not carcinogenic. It's an FDA approved drug in the patches and the gums. And what was really killing people was this toxic delivery system of combustion. And if we could figure out a way to give the, you know, 1.3 billion people on the planet who were already addicted to nicotine, the same nicotine, but in a non-toxic delivery system, that was an amazing public health opportunity that also represented a great economic opportunity because those people were spending about $1 trillion a year on their nicotine habit. And so, you know, we recruited the 17th Surgeon General of the United States to serve on our board of directors because we were really focused on the public health benefits of what we were doing. But it wasn't a subscription model, which was part of what was attractive to me about, you know, when Blair described this idea. And I guess what captivated me was this sort of dichotomy of the 2 years of treatment versus the 50 years of post-treatment. And I was like, well, gosh, the 50 years of post-treatment is a much longer period of time than the 2 years of treatment. And there's a lot of things you can do with once you have that relationship. Some of those things, you know, for example, we can tell our Retainer Club subscribers, you know, hey, we can make a custom fitting mouth guard because we've got your scan, you know, things of that sort. And I think that also, you know, one of the things that I learned at NJOY was this idea of when you outsource and when you don't outsource. You know, we manufactured 80 million units of our product, and these were very complicated products that involved, you know, integrated circuits and lithium polymer power source and, you know, negative pressure sensors and vaporization and all of these complexities. But, you know, we outsourced that manufacturing. We had wonderful manufacturing partners in China, and we manufactured 80 million units of our products and distributed them in 130,000 retail locations. You know, when I think about Retainer Club from that outsourcing, you know, model, you know, I just look at the orthodontists and the dentists, and I think to myself, you guys went to dental school to be spectacular orthodontists and dentists and provide these incredible treatment experiences in the office. You know, making retainers, that's like making your own toothbrushes, right? Don't you outsource that to like Colgate and Crest? I mean, you know, are you making your own brackets? No, you're using, you know, wonderful companies like, you know, American Orthodontics. I mean, so I just think, why would you make your own retainers? It's just a waste of time. That's a great area to outsource. Focus on treatment. Let us handle this kind of, you know, aspect of your practice that's really tangential to your primary, you know, reason for being. And, you know, we had one of our partners said that just hard costs alone, he's saving $140,000 a year by retasking the employees that were otherwise spending all of this time making retainers. But he thinks that when he calculates chair time that he's saving that is going to be used for treatment, he thinks Retainer Club might be saving him something like $600,000 a year. And so, you know, I think there's this kind of, I guess part of what I noticed at NJOY and what is carried over to Retainer Club is so much of the time we think about, you know, what we think is making us money without asking the question, well, is it costing us money? I think so many orthodontists think, oh, well, but I'm selling my retainers for $500. Why would I give that business up? And it's like, yeah, but what is that costing you? And you know, Blair's got a really, I think, powerful story about what it might be costing you to sell your retainers for $500 as an orthodontist in one of the practices that he was in.
So when walk us through the story, I want to know when Blair approached you to join the Blair Witch Project, did you, you just said I'm all good with that? Well, hey, I want to switch to the mouth guard. The other one is mouthguardclub.com, but to keep my attention straight, I'm looking at your movie deal, The Untold Truth About Above and Beyond, which that was about the Enola Gay, and you're an author. I Am My Brother's Keepers: American Volunteers in Israel's War for Independence, 1947 and 1949. I just lectured for a whole week in Israel before the pandemic. Do those you? It seems like that's a big hobby of yours, World War II. I mean, tell us about why that is behind you. And so, as a man who has 4 kids and wrote 3 books, I always said writing a book is like making a baby. I mean, it takes 9 months to make a baby, and it takes all of 9 months to write a book. So where does this passion come from to make a baby by writing I Am My Brother's Keeper?
Well, I appreciate you asking. I am passionate about military history, about World War II, about Israel. I lived in Israel for about 4 years and speak Hebrew. And in 1995, I was taking a year off between college and law school. And my oldest brother called me and asked if I would be willing to help him on this project of writing a book. So we all know about sort of the greatest generation, these people who fought in World War II. And I think what people don't realize is about 1,000, about 1,000 of those people fought both in World War II and in the creation of the state of Israel, which was in 1948, in that military conflict. And the first commander of the Israeli Navy was an Annapolis graduate. The first general in the Israeli Army was a West Point graduate. The leading ace of the Israeli Air Force in the War of Independence was an American World War II fighter pilot. And so I started doing this research while I was there. I interviewed more than 100 of these guys who had fought in these conflicts in the 1940s. We got the sitting Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to write the foreword for our book, and we got it published in 1998 for the 50th anniversary of the State of Israel. It took about 3 years of research and writing, so more than the 9 months. We should have had 4 or 5 books, I suppose, or 4 or 5 babies. But about 8 or 9 years ago, my cell phone rang, and Steven Spielberg's sister Nancy was on the phone, and she said that she wanted to make a documentary about the subject matter that my brother and I had written about. And so my brother and I were interviewed in this amazing documentary that she produced and called Above and Beyond. And I got to sort of travel a little bit of the world with Nancy, who's one of the most spectacular human beings I've ever met. And we got to go to a bunch of international film festivals and US film festivals. It's a really neat, untold story that most people haven't heard. And so it's been a passion of mine. Believe it or not, for the last quarter of a century, my brother and I have been working on a second book about one of the guys that we wrote about in the first book that we became sort of clearly obsessed with. And we've just completed that manuscript. So hopefully that book will get published either late this year or perhaps next year.
Wow. I loved going to Israel. And I mean, that was because, I mean, where else can you go where you can just go back 2,500 years in time? I mean, I know I was at least at 500 BC, and I mean, really. But my most thank you to Israel was when my father passed away. My mom is the most Catholic of Catholics of Catholics. Her 2 oldest daughters went straight from high school to the monastery. I mean, my oldest sister has more YouTube followers talking to nuns than I do dentists talking to dentists. But anyway, she was in a funk. And she joined. They formed the Wichita Widows Club because when my dad died, like of her 5 best friends, she was like the last widow of the 5 best friends. So they formed the Wichita Widows Club, and Mom was in a funk, and so I sent her to Israel. The whole 5 of them for this 14-day all expenses deal. And she got her mojo back. I mean, like that. She just got her mojo back. And, that was just the best for selfish reasons for me. I mean, she Israel got my mom's mojo back, and for that I'll be so forever grateful for that. So now we can, but you really didn't discuss the movie so much Above and Beyond. That was the
That was Nancy's movie, Above and
that
Beyond.
was Nancy's movie. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Did that
available.
guy end up committing suicide? Because or what happened to his mind? Because he realized he's the guy who dropped the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Or am I completely missed the movie?
Different. Yeah, no, that's a different movie.
Okay.
Ours is about these sort of Air Force pilots who were World War II Air Force pilots who fought in Israel's war for independence in 1948.
Okay, but I think there's the same movie. Maybe it was from the earlier in the 50s or the 60s or something. But
yeah, it could be the same name. But
okay.
Ours Above and Beyond. I think it's on. I think it can be purchased on either iTunes or on Amazon Prime.
All right, right on. So that is you're so damn sure. And then I got to ask you another outside the box question. I'm sorry to do this, but I can't go to mouth guards when you used to run a $50 million hedge fund. I mean, so I'm from Wichita, Kansas. They didn't have a dental school, so I went up to Creighton for undergraduate preference. 1980, I'm a freshman in college. I signed up for Business 101, and this old man named Warren Buffett comes over and teaches our class. And him and Charlie Munger were born there. And to show you how ungenius I am, I'm listening to this old man, and I can't stand the stupid stuff he's talking about. And I raised my hand and I said, yeah, will you please start talking about the Nifty 50? I mean, that's what's sexy. I mean, Kodak and Polaroid and I don't even know what this shit you're talking about, but talk about the Nifty 50. And he goes, I don't own any of the Nifty 50. I don't understand it. I said, if I can't write it down on a 5x7 index card on what you are and how you make money, I'm not going to buy it. And I remember turning to my friends that are all dentists today, Gary Asaldi, Randy Kerwin, Joe Dovkin, the endodontist up here, but he passed. And I said, this guy's dumber than a rock. And, I couldn't believe it. But he did teach us that the Buffett Indicator, which is if you go country by country and the Russell 5000, here's all the publicly traded. Here's how I remember it. And I'm sure I don't understand it to the level of a hedge fund manager. But he said, look, about 15% of the country works for a publicly traded company. 85% is everybody else. So how could this 15% of the publicly traded economy be worth more than the country's GDP? And he says, when it gets down to like 70%, that's a good buying opportunity, and it's going to go up. But if it gets over like 110, 115, it's too high, and it's going to come back down. And now we're sitting here at the highest Buffett Indicator index since World War II. And you have one of the biggest threads on Dental Town, quote, dental stocks, let's gamble and make some money. And I'm wondering, I was born in 62. That was a flash crash year. Graduated from high school in 80. That's when Paul Volcker had to come in and raise interest rates 20%. Graduated May of 87. Black Monday was Thursday of 87, October. And then Y2K, then Lehman's Day. I mean, I've seen this movie 4 times, and I already know the ending of this movie. Are we in that movie again?
I'm not an economist. I would say I think we're in that movie again. I think the issue is it's hard to know. It's hard to know when the other shoe is going to fall. And the story I always like to tell from my own life was I remember the day when I watched the Steve Jobs keynote of the iPhone, where that was debuted to the world in 2007. And I remember turning to my brother and I'm like, wow, BlackBerry is screwed. Like, there's no way they can compete with this technology. And for the next 12 months after that day, BlackBerry stock just kept going up and up and up. And 12 months after the iPhone was debuted, BlackBerry stock was at actually its all-time high. And then it got crushed, and they had no ability to compete with iPhone, and they got destroyed. But if you had bet on that, as I would have theoretically the day I saw that iPhone, you would have been wrong for 12 straight months, right? And you would have actually lost all your money shorting, BlackBerry stock for those 12 months. So I think we're clearly in that space that you're in. And I do think the other shoe is going to fall, but I couldn't tell you whether that's going to be tomorrow or in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And it could be that the stock market's going to keep going up between now and then. But I think that other shoe is going to fall. And for people like you, and for me, for that matter too, we've lived through that, right? I mean, I remember not just 08's financial crisis. I remember the dot-com bubble bursting and 9/11. And, there were plenty of, and I was in high school during Black Monday. I remember all of that. So we've seen that other side where things can not just go up and to the right, but they can go sort of very badly. And it's probably why I have a little bit of that prepper mentality that, just you got to hope for the best and plan for the worst.
That was well said. I mean, that joke was, in the long run, we'll all be dead. But in the long run, you're going to be right, but you're not going to be able to pick what day of the week that long run is going to come out. And that's what gets people just slaughtered. Okay, now you can talk about mouth guards. Now that Howie selfishly got all my questions answered, now you guys can go back to what we were talking about mouth guards. So first of all, how is a mouth guard? Remember, I think the only value in knowledge is if it's transferable. And I don't care about old, smart dentists. I only care about when we pass on these new babies coming into the profession, which, by the way, when I go to these dental schools, I am stunned at what we're attracting. I mean, if you go back to our hillbilly class of a bunch of Irish alcoholics, and then you go to AT still, and it's like, my God, the most amazing people are going into dental school, but they're probably wondering, is a mouth guard, could it also be a retainer?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think what was interesting for me is I went to one of these Essex classes, and I'm guessing this dentist probably was on your show before, or maybe should be if he's not already. There's a general dentist in Los Angeles, Ray Padilla, who has written sort of everything on the custom sports mouth guard. He's kind of the go-to guy, at least in my mind, of how to make a custom sports mouth guard. And early on, I sort of realized two really interesting things. One, these are pretty cool. Like, you can make them in great colors. They fit amazing. And Craig can tell you, how we look at basically traditional sports mouth guards as one of the worst consumer experiences you can go through. Sticking this plastic in a hot vat of boiling water and then shoving it in your mouth as quick as you can. How did we get by so long with that as sort of the way that we protect teeth in sports? But from Ray Padilla, I learned how to make an amazing mouth guard, but it was always super expensive. And Ray's done something really interesting with his practice in the sense that he gives his patients a free mouth guard. And this doesn't mean if you're listening and you're a patient that want to go see Ray, I don't know if he's still doing this plan, but he was for a very long time giving a free mouth guard when you showed up for your 6-month hygiene check. So he obviously built a practice attracting a lot of athletes who thought this mouth guard was amazing and said, it's better for me to go see Dr. Padilla than pay $300 for a custom sports mouth guard. What I think Craig and I were able to do is we really looked at that service and that technology and we said, how can we democratize this? How can we take what we know is the best sports mouth guard? It's the best fit. You can breathe with it on, you can speak with it on. How can we bring it both to a price point that's very consumer friendly? And how can we bring it to a large group of people? And it was sort of the same topic that we thought of when we were talking about retainers. We just need the 3D scan. And the 3D scan we know is a very positive consumer experience versus an alginate or a PVS. That's a very uncomfortable consumer or patient experience. And actually, I put an article in OrthoTown not too long. I don't actually remember how many years now, but it was an article about making mouthguard events in your practice, and that could go for dentists or orthodontists. But I always found it was such a positive experience, both in terms of showing our commitment to oral healthcare and sports in our community, but also it was great for my practice. We always got patients from it. And Craig can kind of tell you a funny business story that we had in terms of how it helped my practice financially. But in terms of the dental side, who's the right person to deliver this oral appliance? It's a dentist or an orthodontist. We deliver oral appliances all day. That's what we do. So the fact that we make them customized, they fit to the mouth perfectly. They can be adjusted occlusally. They can be adjusted through either heat or through a handpiece. These are a great service. And then the final thing we did, so there was a couple barriers we've had. One is to basically establish, if you said to somebody, what should a custom mouthguard cost? Most people probably wouldn't know. And they wouldn't know they typically cost $300, $400, $500. So when you get one for $99, that's actually a really good deal. It's much more than the $10 or $15 you might pay if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods, but it's actually a really good deal. And then the next one is, So if I get the ability to customize my mouth guard, how do I do that? Do I draw you a picture? Do you hand me a lab slip and I fill it out for you? Or is there some sort of online tool? And we've invested a lot into both an app and an online page where the patients can actually create their mouth guard. They can add their names, their number, their logos, and we can have that using our technology. We can have that made for the athletes and make it super simple. And again, like I said, with Retainer Club, we always do it on behalf of our partner offices, but it's really an amazing experience and a great new marketing channel for many offices to use to basically get new patients in while Mouthguard Club does all the work for them in the back end.
Man, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think the Mouthguard Club piece is just like an amazing partnership because, the funny story Blair was referencing was before we started, Retainer Club and Mouthguard Club, he was telling me casually about, as just sort of a give back to the community, that he did all of the football team for the local high school. It's actually, they just won the state championship in football. He did their whole football team custom mouth guards. And he says, it was a big operation. We did all these mouth guards, 30, 40 mouth guards for all these athletes. And, my staff, took them a couple of days to make all these custom mouth guards. And I said, I'm just curious. And he was sort of talking about it almost like in a negative way, like I wanted to give back, but it was a real give back, but really took a bunch of time. And I said, I'm just curious, all those kids, all those football players, I'm sure some of them must have needed orthodontics. Did you get any new patients out of that? He says, yeah, actually, I think I got like, six new patients. And I said, 6 new patients at $5,000 each, like $30,000 of new patients. And he's like, yeah, actually that's right. And I'm like, you should be making free custom mouth guards for every high school football team in the country. Like, what an unbelievable kind of lead gen thing. It's a win-win. These kids got these amazing custom mouth guards and you got new patients. And we've now kind of perfected that to the ability that we basically give the blueprint for our partners, how they can do these events. But now it's much better because instead of them having to spend 2 or 3 days of staff time and labor, we do all the work and we make them look like rock stars. So we've taken that as well. And I think, when you think about millennials today, it's all about customization and personalization. And the 3D scan, gets something that fits perfectly to their teeth in that kind of customized way. But personalization is this really cool thing. And we can do that on Mouthguard Club. We can go to mouthguardclub.com/personalize and play with our design tool. And we have an app that'll be coming out soon where you can trick out your mouth guard in any color you want, any logo you want. And Blair mentioned, your team name and your jersey number and all of that. He did a custom mouth guard for an MMA fighter in which it said the words, "If you can read this, you're already dead." Which to me was just awesome. And it's just, there's so much room to have fun with these custom mouth guards. So, we think it's just yet another really cool thing to have a win-win. We believe in win-win. In this case, I think it's win-win-win, which is it's a win for the patients who get custom fitting mouth guards. There's 40 million mouth guards sold in the US. If you play football or hockey or wrestling or boxing, you're required to wear a mouth guard, but there's such crappy user experiences, this silly boil and bite business. And the pros wear custom mouth guards for a reason. Once you wear one, you'll never go back to a boil and bite. And so we've got this cool ability to give that to people while at the same time making our partners look like rock stars and getting new patients along the way. So we think it's really kind of a win-win.
And just because I know I got my MBA from ASU, so I have this mental block going on saying, why did you name Aladdin Dreamer INC and Retainer Club LLC? I mean, you're the lawyer. I'm not blaming this on Blair.
Well, so today we reincorporated. You'll be happy to know that Retainer Club is now Inc. and Mouthguard Club is Inc. And we actually have a parent company called Custom Club Inc., which owns both Retainer Club and Mouthguard Club. And so yeah, they're all incorporated in Delaware now. We started off as a partnership and then migrated over to Delaware corporations.
Okay, now my brain was spasming when I'm seeing that. I'm thinking there must be some genius reason, but so you got that done. So how did the pandemic affect your business?
Well, so
and also before I say that, are the only 2 websites we're talking today Mouthguard Club and Retainer Club? I mean,
yes.
What about Surprises Smiles or?
No.
No.
Blair's out of the
Okay, so we're only talking
business.
about Retainer Club, Mouthguard Club, that other website, that the parent company. That my homies don't need to know that deal.
No.
Oh, okay. So then back to that question.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think in the short term, the pandemic was bad for business for us in the sense that, a lot of our partner offices were forced to close, certainly in the early days. And as sports got canceled, if there's no sports, there's no need for mouth guards. Long term, I think it's been great. It has and will be good for our business because for a couple of reasons. One is it's changed the math for our value proposition, which is one of the benefits to our dentists and orthodontist partners is, hey, you should be having people come into your office for treatment. You shouldn't be using up, your PPE and your chair time. And now that's so much more expensive because of COVID, all of the, the masks and all of the equipment for every single appointment. So our value proposition of, hey, get rid of these retainer check appointments became much greater. I think the world as a whole is more focused on hygiene and germs. And we always joke, you see those cleaners that say, kills 99% of all bacteria or 99.9%. And my running joke with Blair is, the only way to kill 100% of the bacteria on your retainer is to throw it away and get a new one, which is what we finally made available to people to be able to do. So I think it's a good time to be in the hygiene business, and it'll ultimately benefit us. In the short term, it was a little painful last year. It's actually an amazing thing. We got VC backed in April. It was our worst month in years. It was the height of the pandemic and all of the fear associated with it. And that's when this venture capital firm, invested $1 million in us. And it was really, to me, a testament to their vision of a future that was obviously a post-pandemic future. It's an interesting group, Will Ventures. It's 4 D1 athletes from Harvard. The main guy, Isaiah, he did pre-med at Harvard, 8 years in the NFL, and then his MBA at Harvard Business School. Blair, affectionately refers to him as the underachiever. And so they had this vision of this idea of bringing what the pros wear to the masses, and that we were, a tool for doing that. But so hopefully that answers your question. Bad in the short term, I think ultimately good in the long term.
And Blair, so your lawyer's saying he's not the Blair Witch Project. So does that mean Colleen is the witch?
There's another word that rhymes with witch that her friends have called her before.
So you have done a couple of articles with Dental Town magazine. You did the article "Make Mine a Combo," and then the other one was an event to remember: protect your position in the mouthguard world by Blair Feldman. Will you summarize both of those articles for the orthodontist listening to you now, but even the general dentist? Can you kind of do the top 10 summary of those 2 articles for me?
Yeah, well, sure. First of all, I mean, anytime I've been asked in the past by either the editors or Daniel Grubb, Dr. Grubb, I love helping out. I mean, I think to me, the best when our community as dentists and orthodontists is at its best when it's sharing. And I know you've created something that's really amazing in that space in terms of the boards and the message boards and the conversations that go on. So that's when we're certainly at our best. I've written, I think, 4 or 5 articles between Orthotown and Dental Town. They sort of have ranged from clinical ones to, and I always love technology, to, more marketing ones, and the event to remember. The event to remember was kind of what we talked about with Mouthguard Club. It's basically how to host a mouthguard event, in your office or in your space, and really make it both a positive event for your community and a positive event for the office in terms of a marketing piece. And we learned a lot. I mean, there's some interesting, funny sort of business, pearls that you learn when you do something like that. The first one, which may or may not be intuitive to some of the listeners, is don't give the mouthguards away for free. One year we gave, the mouthguards for free. We thought we were doing such a great service. We're going to bring all the athletes in. We're going to bring the cheerleaders in. We're going to decorate. We're going to make these. Those days we were doing alginate impressions. We impressed everyone. After they impressed, they could go eat a brownie or a cookie or the whole plate if they were the big guys. We made, I don't know, at that point we made 50 mouthguards. And I think I had 15 or 20 of them sitting that I could not get to the athletes. First of all, I think it was because there was no charge for them. So one of the pearls we learned was, make sure you charge $20 for them. It puts some value on these mouth guards, and they will come back to get it when they're $20. The other thing we learned, which again may or may not be intuitive, is you got to collect an email address from everybody that comes through the office. It's a great marketing opportunity, a great way to talk to these people, great way to check in, a great way to say, how's your mouth guard? Here's a few new services we're offering. Here's something that's going on in our office this month. And we certainly had the long tail of marketing and the benefits of that much long after the event when we started collecting email addresses. So that was really important. The Make Mine a Combo, which is of course a nod to my favorite fast food, marketing tactic. I definitely want to make it a combo. Thank you very much, McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. But was a combination of braces and aligner therapy, whether it was Invisalign or some other aligner therapy, that I felt in my practice was the best way to take advantage of the technology at that time when I wrote the article. I feel like since then, a lot of the aligner companies have gotten significantly better in their ability to get the desired movements that you want from an orthodontic case. But at that time, I felt like I wanted to share the mindset of don't be limited to the fact that if somebody's an all braces case or an all aligner case, that they're completely different groups of people and you should have different goals and different expectations. Rather, take advantage of the best benefits of both of the properties and give the patients the best. And because of that, we were able to basically tell any patient at that time that you could be an aligner, treatment. If they wanted Invisalign, you can be an Invisalign patient, at that point in time. So we really got a lot of benefit, and we got a lot of great feedback from that, both from orthodontists and general dentists.
I want to make a couple comments. There's everyone knows that Blair is a specialist because he's an orthodontist and he has an MS after his name. And when I got out of school, there were 8 specialties, and now there's 12. But everybody always remembers all the specialties except the public health. It's oral surgery, endo, perio, pediatric dentistry, ortho, prosthodontist, dental anesthesia, oral face pain, oral med, oral path, oral radiology. And the last one is dental public health. And I hope you all heard what he just said because you drive me insane. He said, you can't give nothing for free. They don't value it. Every dental public health clinic I go to in Arizona from here to Tuba City, I say, what is your biggest problem? Oh, 50% of the patients don't show up for their appointment. Well, did it cost anything for their appointment? Oh, hell no, because the bleeding heart nut jobs in the dental public health page think everything should be free. That's not how you manage humans. And if they had to make that appointment and they say, I don't care, I'm not coming anyway. We say, well, it's going to cost you $10 to make that appointment. That's the first time they come alive. That's the first time they look at their calendar. That's the first time they think, shit, howdy, I got skin in the game. And you don't manage people when they have no skin in the game. And public health people, I didn't say those evil words. It was Blair from the Blair Feldman project that said you can't give stuff away for free because they don't value. I remember this. So I'm in downtown Kansas City, and I was a poor student, and we were really poor, and I didn't have a car, and I had to walk to school 8 blocks without a car to dental school. I couldn't afford a car back then. And on the way home, there was this government deal that would give out assistance. They give out blocks of cheese, and they were free, right? And they were 5-pound blocks of cheese. You know what the kids did with them? They played football with them in the street, and they're passing these 5-pound blocks of cheese because it's free. And I'm like telling these people, if you just charge them $1, they wouldn't be playing football with it in the street. And my gosh, in fact, but anyway, so I want to go to something else. I want to address Smiles Drug Club. I am pro competition. When I look at 5,000 years of human history, I see 2 huge problems. Transparency versus opaque, and checks and balance and competition. Absolute power corrupts absolute. I don't see anything good that came from kings, queens, and dictators. And I don't see anything, with my dad, I always tell my boys, they'd say, well, Dad, do you think I should do this or that? And I say, look, if you're good with seeing this on the front page of the Arizona Republic, knock yourself out. It's called transparency. But if you, for some reason, do not want this story on the front page of the Arizona Republic, then don't do it. It's really, really simple. And I practiced in this town for 10, 20 years where if you fell off your bike on a Sunday and knocked out your front tooth, you'd find 3 mermaids before you found a dentist open. And it wasn't until It got competitive in DSOs. It wasn't until one DSO started doing 7 to 7, 7 days a week, that you could get a dentist open on Saturday or Sunday. It's the same reason I joined the ADA and the AGD. Here's what I think about dentistry. The top line, numerator, denominator, right? You got dentists, orthodontists, hygienists, dental manufacturers, Smiles Direct, insurance companies, Blue Cross, blah, blah, blah. Divided by the customer, the patient. And your job is to keep one eye on the patient and one eye on costs, and to use your God-given talent to make everything faster, easier, higher quality, lower costs, and smaller. And if you can do all those 5 things, you're going to give every human on earth the freedom to afford to save their teeth and have dignity. And you always come back to me with this. You say, oh, I got the greatest idea in the world. Oh, it's great. I'll say, really? Is it faster? Well, no, actually, it's going to take 3 more steps. Is it cheaper? Well, it's so damn good, you're going to have to pay more for this. It's like 3 times more. I mean, you get everything. And then they want me to sign an NDA so that I can go play with lawyers for the rest of my life. It's like, I'm not signing the NDA. And if it's not faster, easier, higher quality, lower cost, and smaller, I don't want to talk about it. Because whatever you come up with, you're just stalling until the real business model comes over and kicks your butt. So I want to ask Blair and his attorney, Craig, you have seen some amazing dental companies in your lifetime in the ortho space. I mean, my gosh, Gasper Lazarus took Orthodontic Centers of America to $1 billion valuation, then it imploded. Now we got a non-orthodontist, somebody from Nashville with Smiles Direct Club. Did they add anything to the competitive environment where Blair said, I have to admit that was good?
So I can share a funny story that happened at, we were at one of these school events, and it was actually hosted by a dentist who had a beautiful home here in Scottsdale. And he came up to me at one point in the party and he said to me, do you know what's wrong with your people? And I said, oh boy, here we go. And I assume he meant orthodontists, not bald people. But I said, go ahead. I think you're going to tell him. And he goes, you just orthodontists want everything to be perfect, and everything's got to be class 1, molar 1, midline's perfect, 10% overbite, And I think I knew where this was going. And he said, and he wasn't a referral of mine, but he said, I refer patients to the orthodontist and they come back saying, I don't want to pay that amount of money. He wants to make everything perfect and take you 2 years to do it. And, I just want these bottom teeth straight. So, the message was clear, right? That, now this he says, and I just do the ortho because it's easy. They want, 3 teeth straight. I can do it. And the message was super clear, but it also made me think about what happened with Smile Direct Club. Where did this sort of come from? And all the direct-to-consumer, companies that are similar to that. And the answer is they answered a consumer need better than the orthodontist did. They were there, they were available, they were affordable, and they sort of provided this sort of need that the patient wanted. So, we were one of the early offices that was part of the Invisalign retail store over at Fashion Square. And it was a challenge mentally as an orthodontist. It was a challenge. They were telling me there's 3 levels of care. And, the first one is, it's like 10 aligners or something. The next one's 20. The next one's whatever it takes. And of course, in my mind, I was like that dentist who told me that you want to make everything perfect. But I knew that there was a heavy demand at that point in time for that lowest level. It was about $2,000, 10 aligners. What can you do with 10 aligners? And, what really became interesting to me as a clinician during that time, and if you remember, it was only open for a short amount of time before, through the binding arbitration with Smile Direct Club, they had to close up the retail stores. But what I did learn was to listen a little bit better, first of all, to the patients, to be able to present. We used to say to them when they would say things to me like, I want it done in 5 months, and, and this is what I'm looking for. I'd say, great. What's more important to you? Do you want it done quickly with just like a focused treatment? Or do you want something that you never have to come back to see me again because it'll last forever? And listen, a lot of the patients would say, are you listening to me? I just want these 4 teeth straight, and this is what I'm willing to pay. And it was usually in that range. And Craig and I sort of have a philosophy that because of that sort of dogmatic behavior, that my profession, a lot of docs in my field believe, we sort of inadvertently created this gap that was filled by these direct-to-consumer companies. And I think orthodontists see the reality now. I think we realize that not everything has to be perfect as long as you can explain and manage the patient's expectations. There's actually an article that I wrote in Orthoton called Managing Patient Expectations, and it's about that. But I think, understanding, managing the expectations, making sure you're sort of on the same page, both the doctor and the patient, is so critical. And when you have that power, you can actually do treatments that are, really what the patient's interested in.
And I'll just sort of add one piece to that, which is, just to sort of two things. One, to reinforce what we said at the beginning, which is, while I, of course, we're very pro competition, we do believe that the best patient outcomes happen when you go into the office to see, an orthodontist or a GP who's a trained dentist to get orthodontic treatment. There's a story though that I've always appreciated, which was this interview with Jeff Bezos. About how does Amazon sort of plan for 5-10 years from now? What is Amazon thinking about? And he said, it's hard to know what the future holds, and it's very hard to predict what people want. So he goes, so what we've done at Amazon is we've basically done the opposite, which is we say, what do we know for absolute certain that our customers will not want? And he says, well, we know in 5 years from now and 10 years from now, no Amazon customer is going to want to pay more money. We know that no Amazon customer is going to want to get their products slower. So he said, so we just sort of spend all of our time and energy on sort of faster and cheaper. Those are the two things we know that everybody wants. And so we've got to, make sure that we keep doing that. And so I think that mindset is important because one of the things that we're trying to do at Retainer Club and at Mouthguard Club is how do we give the patients the best possible service? How do we give them what they want, which is they want more convenient, they want more affordable. And I think if you do that, the world will be the path to your door. And so that's certainly what we're trying to accomplish.
Man, I would like to be a fly on the wall at your guys' house. I mean, talk about total brainiacs. My gosh, I'm managing expectations. I'll never forget that at ASU, and I was getting my MBA, and it was satisfaction equals perception of what's happening minus what they expected. And dentists always do it wrong. I mean, I learned that in '98 at MBA at ASU. So like I'd pull out every time I pulled an extraction, I'd put that bloody root right in front of me. I go, oh my God, look at the hook on the end of that root. It went right up, damn near under your eye. I swear to God, when the anesthetic wears off, I hope you have a pistol you can suck on, because you're going to want to shoot yourself. They're like, oh my God. Then they come in 2 weeks later. Dr. Friend, you're not going to believe it. I mean, I actually went to work the next day. And then what's the next sentence say? Do I need pain pills? You shouldn't feel a thing. You're going to be fine. You'll be fine. Oh, well, you just set yourself up for every root canal I ever did. When I stuck the first file in there, I'd pull it out and I'd say, Jan, can you smell that? And she goes, oh my God. And we'd say, can you smell that? And the patient's like, I said, that is so infected. I swear to God, when this wears off, the only men who could handle this pain, they must be married, because no single man could ever suffer this much. But, buddy, I hope you do okay. So I'm always lowering their expectations. They'll come in, a pretty girl, and she'll bust off half her front tooth. She'll say, well, can you make it match the other one? I'll say, well, okay, so let me get this right. God made this one, and all of this made the other one. No one ever has accused me of being God. I don't think anyone's even thought I was God, but I'm flattered that you think I'm God, but sorry, but I'm not. I'm just a human. I'm going to try my damnedest. And she's all like, oh, and she's all like, she's just like, oh my God, this is going to, please tell me it won't be as ugly as you are. And then you do the thing. And then when you hand her the mirror, she's like, oh my God, she's screaming. But if you reverse that, said, man, you won't even be able to know which one's fake. Then she's like, oh, I know what about that? Can you take that? Can you take that? I mean, humans, the people who go the furthest in life, they're not the smartest, they're not the hardest working, they're the people who know how the playground works, and no one's going to play. unless they have skin in the game. They're very tribal. They always think wherever they live, they think their tribe's got better food, music, wine, women, all that stuff. And the farther you get away from them, and they don't understand your wine, your women, your food and drink, they think it's lower quality, all this stuff. Learn the people game. Because in my experience, every dentist that's crushing it, which means he's collecting over $1 million a year and taking home over $250 a year, their dentistry could be anywhere from A to F. I've seen it all over the board, but what they nail is the patient. They can talk, they come in, they make eye contact, they shake your hand, and even when some other dentist tells them this is horrible work, they're like, you never met Dr. Tom and, whatever. Just nail the people stuff. And I've been in 1,000 dental offices, and you walk in there and the dentist 9 times out of 10 will walk straight into the view box, point to the view box, say, okay, write this down. He has an MO on 3, an MOD on 4. He has an interproximal lesion on number 5, probably be leading to irreversible pulpitis, need endodontic therapy, and a full post-cross-hand buildup. And then he has no treatment plan acceptance. He has no word-of-mouth referral. He has no anything. And you two boys are just warm, bubbly, and smart. So I'm sure your business like shooting fish in a barrel. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for all you do for the retainers. The subscription model is genius. I just want to make one clear point on that. I mean, my gosh, the one thing I don't like about Facebook and Alphabet is they make 98% of their money from advertising. Whereas Microsoft, which survived the last 2 bubbles of the .com and the deal, Microsoft is spread out with 7 income streams. And I look at these DSOs, and they got 1 income stream. They're spending a lot of money on marketing. They get in, they try to present a big treatment plan. They're burning and churning and burning and churning. And what the family practice is going to fight back with is customers for life. They're going to come back every 6 months for a deal. And if your only revenue stream is every time I advertise, I'm going to get 1 customer's $1 once, that's not very smart. Try to get a reoccurring revenue model, like Netflix. What is the genius of Netflix? Once they get you to give you $10 every month for the rest of your life, now they have a budget. And you know who the inventor of that was, boys? It was Procter & Gamble in the 1880s, and they realized that somebody would go out in their ranch and make a shitload of soap and fill up a big old covered wagon, go around and sell everybody a gunny sack, 50 pounds of soap, and then nobody in that town in Ohio needed soap again for a couple of years, and they go bankrupt. So it was Procter & Gamble that said, the only way we can make this a business is whatever we sell them, we can only sell them a 1-month supply because we pay our bills. We pay our rent, mortgage, equipment, bill out, computer, insurance, malpractice, professional dues, updates. We pay everything monthly. So and I still think, Blair, maybe I'm too cynical, but I still think them cynical orthodontists had you come in every month because they paid their rent every month. I mean, I'm sure there's a correlation there somewhere. Agree or not agree, Blair?
I think that was how I grew up. I remember I went every month and my mom gave me a check to give to him every time. I mean, I don't think it was ever like that in my 20 years of practice. There was always talks about dissociating, treatment from payments, but it wasn't easy. But I think you're right. I think that's why they did that.
And then when Procter & Gamble started having a very small base of customers who bought soap monthly, then the big boy banks in Ohio said, well, since you have a predictable income stream, we can go from you sell a bar of soap and make a dime. Well, that's a 10% profit margin. But if it costs you $1 in building a soap factory to do $1 of sales and make 10%, now you got a 10% profit margin with a 10% return on asset. But now we can go to equity. Now I can look at this predictable cash flow and loan you $100. So now your 10% profit margin, 10% return on asset is now 100% return on equity because I have this predictable cash flow. So good job on the subscription deal. I'm sure you thought of it from the Bald Guy Shaver Club head. I mean, all great ideas come from bald heads. And on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was just an honor to podcast you.
Thank you. It was our pleasure. Thank you so much.